Hello students, and welcome to our missed approach execution video. Before we jump into the cockpit, let's quickly discuss the objective of this maneuver and some key factors that we'll be focusing on. Missed approaches are established for pilots to safely climb up and away from the airport environment when they are unable to execute a landing from an instrument approach. This can be due to many factors, such as not having the proper visual criteria in sight, not executing a stabilized approach, or it can also be instructed and directed by ATC. In this maneuver execution video, we will not be covering detailed aerodynamics, maneuver diagrams, common student errors, or the ACS standards. This video is to simply explain and demonstrate the execution of the maneuver and will vary based on the aircraft you are flying. To see all the additional details we just mentioned and to study this lesson's full-length presentation, podcast, diagrams, flashcards, lesson quiz, and more, look up the missed approach lesson on our website at wificfi.com. Lastly, before we jump into the cockpit, there are a couple of key factors that we need to cover regarding this maneuver. Today we will be executing the missed approach procedure for the VOR Alpha approach at the Ogden, Utah airport. The identifier for the Ogden, Utah airport is KOGD. That's Oscar Golf Delta. We would suggest pulling up this approach plate on a separate device or a separate screen so that you can follow along with us as we brief it and perform this missed approach procedure for you. We will not be completing this entire approach, as that is already covered in our VOR approach execution video on Wi-Fi CFI. Hence, we'll start our video just outside the final approach fix at the correct altitude and airspeed, and we will assume that all other items that needed to be completed prior to this point were completed successfully. We'll then cross the final approach fix and descend to our circling minimums. Once there, we will maintain our altitude and airspeed until we reach our missed approach point, the MAP, which is a 3.5 DME, 3.5 DME from the Ogden VOR in this example. We will then assume that we have not met the required criteria to continue to our landing, and we will begin to execute the missed approach procedure. When executing any missed approach procedure, remember the 6 C's of a missed approach. They are cram, climb, clean, cool, call, click. Cram is to cram full power. Climb will begin our climb at VY up and away from the airport and obstacles. Clean will retract our flaps in our landing gear. Cool will open our cowl flaps if it's necessary and if we have them installed. Call will call ATC and let them know that we are executing the missed approach. And click, if you are using the GPS to fly your missed approach, you'll have to click the suspend button to go ahead and load the missed approach into your GPS so that you can use it for navigation. So that's the 6 C's. Go through them one more time. Cram, climb, clean, cool, call, click. We're going to hop out to the airplane now and show you how those 6 C's work in this missed approach example. So let's head out to the airplane. Alright, welcome out to our airplane, students, where we are going to be shooting the missed approach procedure, or I should say, I guess, executing the missed approach procedure for the VOR Alpha approach into Ogden. Before we unpause the simulator, I just want to kind of show you where we're set up, where we're at in the process of the approach. Remember, we're not shooting the entire approach in this video. If you want to see how to shoot a VOR approach, go and watch our VOR approach video in that VOR approach lesson on Wi-Fi CFI. Alright. Here, where we're at, is we've got the Ogden VOR set up, 115.7. We're just going to be doing this with the VORs, okay? We've got everything prior to this point in the approach completed. We are 3 miles outside the final approach fix right here, 3.0 DME from the Ogden VOR. We're at 5,700 feet, which is the altitude that we should be at, and our airspeed is looking good. We're between 90 and 100 knots. We're on our course. Okay. So everything's been done. We've done all the ABCs of our approach, checklist, airspeed, ATIS, building, briefing the approach, and doing the approach checklist for our airplane. Alright. So when I unpause the simulator, which I'll just go ahead and do now, we're going to continue towards our final approach fix at the correct altitude, 5,700 feet. After we cross the Ogden VOR, we'll be able to descend down to our circling minimums of 4,980. I'm just going to call it 5,000 feet. So after we cross our final approach fix, we'll descend down to 5,000 feet. Then we'll level out and maintain our altitude until we get to our missed approach point, which in this example is an intersection called Ruyos, and it is a 3.5 DME past the VOR. So once we get to that 3.5 DME past the VOR, we're going to assume we do not have the correct criteria in sight to continue with our landing, so we'll need to execute the missed approach. And that missed approach says this: if you have the VOR alpha pulled up on a separate device or whatever, so you can look into the plate with me, it's a climbing left turn to 13,000 direct to the VOR. So turn around, we're going to have back to the VOR, we'll be climbing, left hand turn, and then we're going to go on radial 263 out to Moy intersection, which is 15.1 DME out there, and hold, and we'll continue our climb in the hold to 13,000 feet. Alright, that is that for our missed approach. I'm going to switch over to heading mode here just as we cross over the VOR for that little cone of confusion part. We are 0.5, and remember, we're going to go down to 5,000 feet, so I'm going to go ahead and bug that now. We're going to wait till we cross the VOR, and then we're going to pull some power back and make our descent down to 5,000 feet. Awesome, looks good. Go ahead and nose down. We're going to nose down at 800 feet a minute, bring some power back so we don't get going too fast. And we'll even extend a notch and flaps, why not? Now that the needle's coming back in, I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to nav mode on our autopilot. Going down at 800 feet a minute to 5,000 feet, where we're going to level out and take it to our 3.5 DME, which is our missed approach. Remember again, the DME is right here. Once we get to that 3.5, we're going to go cram, climb, clean, cool, call, click, head back to the VOR in a climbing left turn. We got 200 feet to our minimums, 100 feet to our minimums. I'm going to start to bring in a little bit power as the autopilot starts to raise our nose so we don't get too low. And we're going to level out here at 5,000 feet. And we'll pretend like, you know, we're outside looking for the runway environment to see if we can continue on for our landing. Again, we're going to pretend like we don't see that, hence the reason we're doing the missed approach. So we're going to take this to 3.5 DME, where we can begin the missed approach. Remember, you can't begin the missed approach early. You got to get to the missed approach point first before you start making any turns. Down at our minimums. Looking for the airport, not seeing anything, still in the clouds, not seeing anything. Still nothing. We got 0.4 of a DME before we start our missed approach. 0.2, and for this missed approach, I'm going to kick off the autopilot and autopilot master, so I might have to retrim it a little bit. Be patient with me if it goes a little haywire, okay? 3.5, still nothing, so let's go ahead and kick it off. We're going to do cram. We're going to start our climb. See how it kind of goes haywire when I try to retrim that. We're going to start our climb. We're going to clean, cram, climb, clean. Go ahead and start my turn. Cool. If I had cow flaps, I could go ahead and open my cow flaps here. So cram, climb, clean, cool. I don't have them, so, but if you did, you could. Call. We'll call up Ogden Tower, Cessna Wi-Fi CFI, executing the missed approach for the VOR Alpha. They let us know. Cram, climb, clean, cool, call. And click. We don't have to click anything here because we are not going to be using the GPS for our missed approach procedure. I'm just going to be making a left-hand turn and heading directly back to the VOR, which is right there. So let's go ahead and maybe take our heading bug over there as well as we're climbing. Making a climbing turn directly back to the VOR. Watching our altitude as we're climbing, still climbing at our VY. And it didn't matter what altitude we went back to the VOR on, it just said, or sorry, what radial to go back to the VOR on, it just said to go back to the VOR. And it said to climb to 13,000 feet. After we cross the VOR, we want to be on a radial of, let me double check it, what was it, 263. We're going radial 263 after we cross. We're just going to continue our climb. Let's see, maybe we need to kick on. Let's go ahead and kick this stuff on here. Get our vertical speed up. We're watching our climb rate. It's 13,000 feet we had to climb to. I don't know if I said that, so that's why I put 13,000 feet in our altitude bug. CDI needle is going to start to get pretty sensitive here as we get closer, I guess, to the VR. And that cone of confusion. So I'm going to switch over to heading mode with my autopilot, so that we're not crazily chasing the needle until we cross. You can see we're getting real close. Remember, after we cross the VR, we're going to be going to radial 263 and continuing our climb on that radial 263. Yeah, let's go ahead and set this up for 263, 264, 263 there. We can go ahead and take our heading over here a little bit. 263. Needle's coming back in, so I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to nav mode. Still watching my airspeed and my altitude, making sure I'm not getting too slow, because I set my vertical speed for a 700 foot per minute climb. So I might have to decrease that rate if we start getting too slow, but our speed's looking good. So we're in nav mode. That should follow the 263 radial all the way up. And Moint is 15.1 DME out on the 263 radial. We are only 1.3. Right. So we're not going to take it all the way there. That would just be a long video of you watching us fly this straight radial, right? See, I started getting a little slow, so I'm going to nose down just a little bit, probably kick it to, instead of 700 feet per minute, kick it to 500 feet per minute, so we don't slow the airplane too much. But as I was saying, we're not going to take it all the way out to 15.1 DME and do the hold. If you want to see how to do holds, we've got a whole like 2 hours of videos on how to do holds, and we do have like a 25-minute execution video too, where you can see us actually performing holds here in the airplane as an execution. Again, we're not going to do that hold. We're not going to take this all the way out to 15 DME because it's basically just a straight ahead climb. But to finish off this missed approach, that is what we would do. Okay, we would continue climbing out here to 13,000 on this radial 263, and then once we got to Moint, we could either do, looking at the approach plate here, it looks like we could either do a parallel or a teardrop entry at that point to continue our climb in the hold up to 13,000 feet. Also, now kind of that we have everything established, I guess last thing I could say is, you know, you could do your whatever checklist you might have. Okay, if you were got a climbing checklist or a cruise climbing checklist or anything like that, you could go ahead and perform that in your airplane at this point. So that is everything, guys, for the missed approach. Again, we didn't fly the full approach here. That was just getting down to our minimums, pretending that we don't see the airport, and then go and miss. So thank you for joining us on this lesson, guys, and we hope to see you on our next one coming up soon.